Welcome to my opening series. What's the best opening? Colle System. And I'm going to show you why with a game played by one of my friends. So let's take a look at this dude, and you're going to see what happens when you understand the system and what it does for your position and your move selection, what have you. As you can see, 83.9% accuracy, which is really good. This came up with a 2200 qualification there. All right, Colle System, D4, D5. This is the symmetrical pawn formation that you're going to see. The move order can change, obviously. The highlight of the position is that white will place his bishop on D3. And the thing that's really great about this system, you put the bishop on D3, you put the king's knight on F3, you put the queen's knight on D2, and if the position is correct for it, you can play F4, knight F3. All right, so here, easy. We play knight D2 first because you want to keep your options open. We're trying to control this E4 square to prevent knight to E4. B6, not the best move. Solid. Now there's a minor threat that he has. As my dad would say, what's he trying to do to me? He's trying to get rid of your strong bishop. This is white's strongest minor piece, and you want to protect it. And the way to protect this is not obvious. There's really like two ways. We already know, I've showed you what he's trying to do. Bishop to A6. You can play two ways. You can play queen to E2, which is not as precise for the system as the move that was played. This is the correct move. The reason this is the correct move is it stops this bishop move with a counter trap. Bishop A6, double question mark, bishop takes bishop, knight takes bishop, queen to A4, check, picks up a free knight. In this Colle system, this is the tent formation that you're trying to create. And this gives your bishop retreating, and your bishop would like to retreat on this same B1 to H7 diagonal if necessary. Okay, so now he's trying to counter with this E4 control, which is, interesting and has some minor problems that it can set for white, but we got no problem. So here, now the machine says queen E2. In a blitz game, this is much better. F4 is part of the system. We're going to own E5 and restrict him from going to E4 as much as possible. He's playing a more passive double fianchetto bishop. So knight GF3, this is the preferred minor piece setup for white. So white knows the system and plays to the system, not playing, as my father would say, don't be fancy. Learn the system and you'll know where your pieces belong at a rapid rate. Okay. Again, this is one of the hallmarks of this attacking system is to put the knight on E5. Whenever it's traded off, if it ever gets traded off, we're going to capture with F takes E5. We know in advance they're going to take it and double our pawns, and we are happy to have it. This is one of the things. Double pawns are not always bad. When you get a double pawn in the center under the right circumstances, you're in business. So he's castling almost into it, okay? The it being the attack. Hey, white's playing the system, just, castle is good. Now, engines come up with H4, etc., which is very dangerous. It's the kind of stuff you would see in a chess club speed chess game. And retrospectively, the engines, give this a high degree of usefulness. Now here it's like okay, but what's going on with the system is that white is controlling E4. And what the whole setup basically revolves around giving black bad move opportunities. His pieces do not have flexibility. You have a space advantage. This queen ironclad guards e4 after the bishop and the knight. So there's, kind of a waiting move. It's not a trap, but it's almost a trap. This is, probably one of the best squares for the knight, in this system for black. Now, white castles. The white setup is getting ready to play e4 at the correct moment. a6 really is a do-nothing move, and this is the thing. Black is trying not to be committal, which is, the advantage that he's got there of playing in his mind a6. It's not a horrible move. It just doesn't do anything. Knight to e8 realizes f6 is a possibility. All right, g4. Oh, that's a mistake. Well, it's a mistake. Why is it a mistake? Well, the computer, let's see what the computer says. Take, there. It's like, okay. It's restricting f6 to a degree. We can play e4. White can play e4 if he wants to, because he only has 2 attackers. If he takes, then we take back with the knight. We want to retain the bishop. So generally speaking, if you're going to play this move, captures, knight captures. It clears the road for this bishop on c1. Also, this is your strongest minor piece. All right, so let's go back. He doesn't like g4. Black plays the standard counter to the central thrust, hitting d4 with c5. A good move. Again, it's just not as strong as what the computer can calculate. Now the attack is going full force because white has set up his major formation. Knight e5, bishop d3, queen on f3, castles. g5, why not? Okay? Good move. Computer doesn't think it's the best move, but it thinks it's a good move. All right. Now this is where you start seeing that you have good players playing. And the reason you can see that is they play moves that are not obvious because they got to be thinking. Knight h5, I agree. I would have thought knight e8 historically is a better move. But I've played, many games in this system. So I know that the gut reaction will be to play knight to e8. Black clearly doesn't have the experience that someone who's mastered this system has gotten. So the thing is here is, okay, what's going on? Well, this move is suspect. It's not horrible, but it's suspect because it leaves black open for some counter-attacking chances. Okay, queen to g2 is a move I would have, thought of playing myself, because many times you need to move the queen off of f3. Once you've played g4 and then g5, queen can go to sometimes g3, but usually g2 is more correct. So in the system, we would know to play potentially queen to g2. Bishop to e2 is a good move. It has a threat in it. It's not obvious. And that sometimes is very deceptive and works because it's like, what kind of a stupid move is that? Yeah, it's not stupid. Queen g2 just might be better. All right. Normally, whenever black captures here, he's helping white with this e-pawn taking on d4. You don't want to play c takes d4. You want to open the line of the bishop. So that's why e takes d4 is the best move from the computer, and also the system book tells you play e takes d4 if they're going to take that move. All right, so now he realizes why the bishop went here. The bishop went here to do some nasty business, okay? Because queen to g2 or queen to h3, you're threatening to win a pawn. by just bishop takes knight, if the bishop is still there. So this one is another one is that, okay, he's clearing room for his knight. As my father would say, what's he trying to do to me? And actually, he's not trying to do anything to you, white. He's trying to do something to save his knight. If white plays queen h3, threatening to win a pawn, he just goes back, knight to g7. You don't get any, okay? So white set a devious trap with knight to g4. Well, what if he goes back here, following his plan blindly? Well, see if you can figure out what move you would play, and if you can't figure it out, leave a message and I'll tell you. Okay, so knight g4 sets a devious trap. He sees the trap and goes back to g7. I find it hard to believe it calls this a great move. But, I mean, bishop to h8 is, you know, one of those things. It's one of those, you're kind of forced to do it. You don't want to do it. And so now the position is fine where he's not threatened with the loss of material. So queen to h3. This was the whole idea of bishop to e2, threatening to, you know, mess with this knight. But on the other hand, there's something else going on here, is that white is not only threatening to win a pawn against this h5 knight, but he's following the system, clearing the squares. Now that the pieces have been aggressively posted, this is upcoming, knight to f3. Okay, so the queen to h3 move here is a clearance move. It's clearing the space for the knight. That's what it is. But again, you see this white queen will commonly dominate on light squares. So it's not difficult to understand. White is following the system. And as you gain more and more experience in the system, you'll see examples of this occur. f6. After all this maneuvering, he's got f6, and it's really nothing special. So here, the threat is what? The threat is this. He's got 1, 2 guys attacking g5. White has only one pawn defender. So the obvious move is, what's he trying to do to me? Pawn takes pawn. How can I react to that? White could play queen h4, but it's kind of inferior. We want knight to f3. Now the computer says knight h6 check. Let's look at this. Knight checks. What is that doing? Now we're going to win this pawn. So if he plays bishop takes, we've got pawn takes, and we're threatening to just eat this knight. Okay? Show the follow-up. Yeah. Chop, chop. There's nothing he could do. He's just losing a pawn, and we don't have to take it immediately. This pawn really can't be held for any length of time. Now, this is very dangerous, especially in a speed chess game. I find this, man, he sacrifices a knight for this garbage. But it's super dangerous because you open the bishop, and normal players in a speed chess game don't want to take this knight. So, let's go back. White plays knight f3. This is the way more solid move. It's not as great technically as what the computer says. Now, the computer has flawless calculation ability. If you're a person with flawless calculation ability, raise your hand. Put your hand down, dummy. No one's flawless, okay? So, you're asking for it to go into the line that the computer suggested in a blitz game. You're asking for problems. So, as my dad would say, his rules are so good because they're universally applicable. Don't be fancy. The fancy move is knight h6 check, bishop takes, pawn takes. That's the fancy move. And my dad, once again, is correct. That is not the best move in a practical blitz game. Knight f3 is the best move because this White has an advantage in space, and you see the computer showing that. Right here is dead even, okay? And so there's like a one-pawn advantage. White is winning. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, okay? My dad loved that phrase too, but that's not his phrase. That's a classic. So, now black has been struggling, staring down the double-barreled bishops, okay, plus this queen. And this game shows you why when players say bishops are stronger than knights, they are in this sequence, because the bishops are just super powerful in this game. And they're relatively easy moves to play. Now, so the sword of Damocles is hanging over his head, threatening to chop it off. And he plays this, it's like it happens in a blitz game. You're like, oh, I forgot. The bishop hiding on C1, crunch. Now, this game is won at this point because black had made a mistake and white's position is not even compromised to take the free knight. Well, cost a pawn, but whatever. So now white's going to have to, continue his attack a piece ahead, basically. But just don't be stupid. All right? Don't get fancy. All right, so black plays H5. Now the computer says E5 is the move. He's got 1, 2, 3 defenders with 1, 2, 3, 4 attackers. The key thing is white really should not want to move this pawn because you don't want this bishop being brought to life at the, with this sniper rifle right there sitting there on B7. So E5 is good, even though numerically it doesn't look that great. Here, let's look at the best move for black. E5, show the follow-up. Now watch this. The problem is, E5 is good. It has, if white plays the mistake of D takes E5, you're asking for it, okay? D takes E5, it's like, oh yeah, baby, D4 is coming. So E5, normal people are not going to play E5. It takes way too much calculation. It's not a good move in a blitz game. You're asking for it. So here, white doesn't want to move this knight. This knight is excellently placed on G4 with attack on the H6 and F6 squares. So, en passant, he passed by us. So in passing, he didn't allow us to capture him. Well, we'll just capture him. That's what it means. En passant means capturing you in passing. So very, very good move. I don't even know why the computer says bishop takes pawn is correct. And now the computer, again, flawless calculation. It sees that this is a mating attack that's unstoppable, essentially. As a human, yeah, bishop H8 is the move because he's going to play king to H7 and use this as what I call a shield pawn. So white is not worried about that. Forget H7. Don't care about H7. Look at the attack. Every piece for white is doing something of value. Look for black. Queen is doing very little. I mean, it is guarding this dark diagonal. Okay. Knight's doing a little bit. Bishop nothing. Rook nothing. Black is playing a rook and a bishop down for sure against this attack. So at the drop of a hat, white is ready. Let's try this again. White is ready to sacrifice a piece because the material imbalance on the king side is all of white's pieces versus some of black's pieces. This bishop is there, not doing much. This rook is there, not doing much. Queen and knight are not doing much either, but there's, this is the advantage of space. Space gives you this option sometimes. So black's position is awful, and that's why the bar is through the roof. And when you're playing a game on your own, you don't have an evaluation bar. You could even call it the cheater bar. You don't have a cheater bar. You got to play with your own evaluation in your brain. So I like that move. And like I told you, king H7, that's the smart move for defense. It's like, hey, you can't sacrifice through your own pawn, genius. All right, now, again, the bishop moved off of d3 to get that attack on the knight, and what we got for all this combo was really good. Go back to the main diagonal, b1 to h7. This is the main diagonal. You'll see whenever white is winning in this opening, it's this bishop is doing business on this diagonal. Sometimes defensively, sometimes offensively. This is an offensive example. So bishop to d3 I thought was an awesome move, and the computer agreed. Now, again, the undermining of d4 for black gives him a chance. So he needs to try to play e5. Here he'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 defenders of e5. White would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can win it, but that pawn moves off of d4. This dude comes to life. So, what is going on here? What is white doing? Black is threatening to play e5. The thing to do, I don't know, that's a good question. All right, this is the deal. The weakness in black's camp is g6. This bishop is here. Now there's an idea of queen to h5, but it's stoppable by knight to f8. And I see why this is not played. But there was an idea because this is threatening a checkmate. But he can stop that by knight to f8 and or f5. Now the weakness of f5 is that it gives us back control of e5. Us being white. So knight to h4, yes, I think that is the best move. The computer says no, queen to g3. I swear to you, I don't know where this comes from. It does allow this knight to move on g4 to give a veil to unveil the attack against g6. So what's he doing? Smart. He's getting his knight back on defense. He recognizes g6 is the weakness. Now, the computer says f5, and f5 is coming up soon. But tomato, tomato. Here, the idea is not obvious. In that bishop to, again, now the computer says bishop to g5. If pawn takes, man, I don't know. Bishop to g5, pawn takes, you'd have knight f3, and then you're going to own e5, is my guess. I like bishop to b1 because you have an obvious threat coming. Obvious and strong. It's not obvious bad, it's obviously strong. Again, this is making room. The queen could play queen to e8 and guard g6 if necessary. And there you go. The battery of attack on g6. Now, there's two defenders, knight and king. So black has to add a defender, either f5 to block or queen to e8. What an awful place for a queen. So black decides, you know what? Let's make the rock wall on f5. We don't want any of that business. I can see that from his perspective, which is, fine. But I think, white needs to play knight to e5. The computer says bishop skewer is better. I mean, we mean white, or white's a piece up. So this is kind of dangerous. If bishop g5, pawn takes knight, pawn takes rook. I mean, bishop takes rook, queen takes bishop. And, we're an exchange ahead and the attack is still raging. So I can see that bishop g5 was a very good move. However, white is playing with the system of the Colle system, the knights go on e5. So these moves, when you understand the system by repetition of playing it and seeing the moves, these moves occur very easy to the Colle system player. That's the appeal of it, is that it's easy to play strong moves because you learn the system where your pieces belong, and it takes a lot of guesswork out of the game. you know, the computer says knight e5 is inferior. Well, maybe it's not the perfect move, but that move is super strong. There's nothing wrong with it. So again, queen g6, you know, he's guarding the queen to guard g6. So white has 2 attackers, black has 3. 1, 2, 3 defenders on g6. Okay, that's fine. So white needs to find a way to add attackers to g6, because this is a weakness, but it's heavily guarded, not really going anywhere. This one has got a half open file, so it's easily accessible. Now bishop to g5 just threatens to tickle that rook. Where you know, as my father would say, where are you going now, Bobby Fischer? Okay. Rook can't go here. Pawn takes rook. Knight takes rook. Knight takes rook. Rook to c7 is a good move. And that's where he goes. It's the only move that doesn't lose the rook for a minor piece. But you see the problem. All the holes, the Swiss cheese on the dark squares, occupied by the knight and the bishop and this pawn. The sword of Damocles is still hanging, and it's threatening to be dropped at a convenient moment. But black is doing the best he can to defend this position with limited space. So it's not that black is a bad player. You know, he made a couple of positional slip-ups, and this is the result. And the Colle system is so devastating because once you study it and recognize where the pieces go, man, the moves are just so easy to find in blitz chess. And you're playing good moves even when you're not playing the best move. That's really what's the best. That's what makes it so devastating and tough to beat. Okay, so now rook c7. White is going to have to attempt to attack g6 at some point. But he doubles rooks. You know, he could possibly have played rook to a7 and then bishop to c8. I don't know. So white says, look, I like to attack g6. Let me play this rook. Let me do the rook lift, and then rook g2. It's fairly obvious. When you see the moves, it's like, oh yeah, rook g2 is going to be awesome. This is the thing, and shocking. I didn't think that the bishop takes was a really good move, but I guess the bishop isn't doing nothing on h8, so he's getting rid of a knight, which is attacking g6, so I guess it is. Computer says it's the best move. Now, how do you recapture? This is the key question in this position. How does white recapture this bishop? Do I capture with the rook or capture with the queen? So rook takes here, very good move. Queen takes here, also very good. I think the best move here, and I think the computer should agree. I don't know. I haven't looked. Queen takes allows the flexibility of rook to g2, hitting g6. That's my guess. So let's see. No, it preferred rook takes. And I guess to transfer the attack to e6, but he can defend e6 with rook e7 and rook to c6 and bishop to c8. I don't know. I think the queen move is better. But computer says otherwise. Well, you know, whatever. So again, he's building up defense for g6. I mean, white's pieces are so optimally placed. Bishop on g1 at b1 is perfect. Bishop on g5 is very strong. He will move once the guys are lined up on g6. So this rook is aligning to attack g6. This is a veiled X-ray attack through the bishop. And it's fairly basic. It doesn't take a genius to figure out, well, this king is going to move either to the corner or to f2, and then rook 1 g1 is like, you're in trouble, brother. So black is trying to gain some kind of attacking chances and opening up the queen side. This will be referred to as being too slow, and it's too slow. the attack is raging on the G file, but in the defense of black, he doesn't have any obviously better moves. Now, he does have stuff like he could play knight d7. And this queen would have to move, say, queen to e3 is probably good. But it would give him the ability to play like knight f6 maybe. You know, there's a lot of things. Black has a lot of options, and when you're on defense the way black is on defense, it's hard to calculate which is the best option. That's what the Stockfish here is good for, to show us what did black do well, and he played a lot of good moves, and what did he not do well. And it's not an insult to black. It's not an insult at all. It's just showcasing the difficulty of defending these double raking bishops and this sort of Damocles attack on g6. Again, what's he trying to do to me? Pawn takes, rook takes. Yeah, well, whatever, dude. Good luck with that. Let me know how that works out for you. It's very slow. Takes a lot of moves. Okay. Yes, now I see that the computer likes knight to f3 with the idea of knight to g5, which is really good. I like this move as well because this is in line with the general system attack. But knight f3 is clearly better. All right, now it's a curious move. He's done all this work to hit c3 and then he declined. I don't get it. But this is what happens when you're under pressure on defense. You know, the mind reacts differently and you're going to get these weird moves. And, you know, this dude, retrospectively, looks back at this game, he's going to go, what in the heck was I thinking? It happens to every person at every level. So, again, knight f3 was an awesome move that was overlooked. But, again, white is playing the time limit, as you see, 35 seconds. Under time pressure, bishop to e5 is an excellent move. If you have more time, yeah, you'll see knight f3. But when you're responding, look, in 1 second, white was like, bishop e5. This move plays itself. This is literally the twin slicing bishops. Absolutely fantastic. Too slow. Here you can have it. White is correct not to be afraid of rook takes pawn. He's really doing nothing. All right, now, white needs to get his business going. And now it would be insane to play king f2. So I think moving the king to h1 is better. The computer wants bishop to d3. Why would you want that? This pawn is irrelevant. Winning an a pawn is irrelevant. This game is going to be won or lost on g6 because white has an extra piece. So white can always sacrifice this knight. Knight takes pawn, knight takes, rook comes over, or some other combination, or queen to h5. So now, because the slicing bishop also covers c7, he's rerouting to go to c8. Well, white is no dummy and plays the best move, the computer says, by rook f g1. Well, duh. Gee, I wonder what you're threatening. Fill in the blank takes g6. All right, again, this entire c-file alignment for black. Well, it does give him activity, and he's not playing pieces down. He's just playing one piece down, the bishop. At least the rooks are doing something. But historically, in studying of chess, this is too slow, and you're seeing why too slow is the correct evaluation. Knight rips on g6. Now, he's got 1, 2, 3 defenders, and we have 3 attackers. We meaning white. White has 3 attackers. So what happens is that he's going to end up taking this, but it's going to cost him, the knights will cancel, and it's going to cost him white 2 rooks for a queen. So takes. Wait a second, is that right? Right, knight takes, rook takes. If he wants to play queen takes rook, well then rook takes queen. And if he checks, the rook retreats back. If he takes it, knight takes, rook takes, queen takes, rook takes, king takes, well then white just moves his king to g2, and now the fork with the rook and the bishop, the rook for the bishop and king is no longer active. So knight takes g6 is an obvious human great move, and the computer agrees it's the best move on the board. Now, this move is not perfect by the computer's evaluation, but there's a trap here. What's he trying to do to me? And you got to give him credit. White realized there's a trap here, and the trap is now knight takes, queen takes, because you can't take with the rook on. This rook is pinned. So there's only one defender of this knight, not two. It looks like there's two, rook and rook, but there's only rook because this rook is pinned. So knight takes knight check is an obvious move, especially under time pressure. But again, give black credit. He created a trap, and that's how you win games sometimes. All right. Now again, queen is guarding g6. Doesn't really matter. Queen takes would have been just as fine. Rook takes is the best move, which is great. Now, the lumber is being laid. That's really hilarious, is that if you'll notice, this king could have taken this pawn multiple times. Okay, look at all these times. This king takes h6 is possible, but it's essentially... Black is a smart player because he knows that that pawn helps him defensively. An idiot takes king takes h6 because you're asking for it with all kinds of, combinations of bishop f4 check, queen e3 check, which would, allow it to go to h3, nasty stuff. So black was smart not to capture this h pawn. So you gotta recognize that and go, dude, this guy's a good player. This is one of those things where even a good player plays moves that are losing when he gets a bad position, but he's not rolling over and playing dead. This guy is fighting to the best of his position's ability. There's nothing you could say negative against the guy. He's not taking on h6 because he's not stupid. I'm telling you. You learn when you're getting hammered at chess club in blitz games when you're 1400. And you're like, oh, king takes free pawn. You get annihilated. It's like, maybe not. So queen goes. Now, again, remember, this rook is pinned. So how does one capture? Pawn takes is pretty good. And it's very strong because it's anchored by the bishop. And it also allows queen to h5 check. So pawn takes might be the best move here. Bishop takes is also strong, anchoring the pawn. Yeah, the computer says bishop is good, but pawn is better. And the queen h5 check is the key. So, but you gotta look in the situation. In 1.6 seconds, bishop takes. You can't argue with that. The point is, white is playing a strong move that doesn't lose when he's low on time. So you got to give him credit for that. Now, takes, king takes is obvious. And you see the problems are coming badly for white. He's got a rook against a queen and a bishop. It is over, but the time says, play to the end. Anything can happen. So he gets out of dodge. He could have played rook g8 or rook to f7. So this move is a very good move. I missed this. I didn't even see that he could have just taken this check. I liked the queen h5 move because it threatens another trap. Very trappy move, very strong. Again, the computer agrees it's a strong move, but you can just literally take the pawn with check. The trap is this. Queen takes here, obviously, so he's got to move it. And now there's the trap is unleashed. Is that now the king is completely wide open, and the computer says it's mate in 4. But when, both sides are under 20 seconds, mate in 4 might be true, but can you mate in 4 in less than 16 seconds? It's not as obvious as it looks. Okay. Now, the mate in 4 is queen checks, king to h7, and then I want to say it's h4. Oh, actually, sorry, queen checks is not the best move. Yeah, the move that's winning is queen to g6. That's mate in 4. Queen f8 check maintains a mate in 4 after his move. It's still mate in 4 now. Queen takes free rook. Don't mess around. Don't be fancy. That's what my dad said, okay? The threat here, bishop f8 discovered check, and he's getting annihilated, okay? Now, there's a great mating idea here that I saw if you play h4. It's mate in 3. Now, again, under time pressure, white is playing a strong move. Computer doesn't like it. This move is forcing a win. This is literally 1, 2, that's a queen, 3, 4, and 5 at the very worst. Now, it's not mate in it was mate in 4, complicated. But this is now about mate in 5, fast. So, as my father would say, play the win that you see. And don't try to be fancy. You got 12 seconds and change to lose the game. All right? Great. I'm glad that the computer agrees that was the strongest move. This is so strong because double queens mate that quickly. And that is the key. You can mate someone super quick with 2 queens that, and it's internal and you don't have to think about it. Once you're, 1,1600 player, you've probably played enough games, hopefully live. This fence queen, this king's not going anywhere. And this is just super fast and super brutal. Okay, again, you see the ladder mate. Queen g7, queen on here. This will check here, and then we'll finish it. White will finish this queen to h6 checkmate. So this is the deal. That this game was an awesome example of Colle System. Let's go back here. So I'm going to run through this one more time quickly and point out why Colle System is so devastating. Okay, this is the Colle System base format. White chooses to play. This is, that's the base format for the bishop. The base format is to play in d2. And then if white isn't stopping him, you're going to play f4. Okay, remember, he had the fianchetto idea of bishop a6 counter trap with c3. This is the system of the Colle System. All right, so now f4 is very strong. And especially when black wants to play a fianchetto, it's not the greatest because this whole Colle System opening is going to have a g4, sometimes h4 attack anyway. And he's given us an attack option here with h5 at some point. So this is really the fianchetto king side, or bishop g7 is not recommended for black. It makes it very difficult for him. And as you saw, that was the case. The difficulties are inherent because he's castling into it with an inferior pawn formation. It's normal for him to castle here with the pawn on g7. qf3, queen on the white squares. All right. g4, we're going to stab this knight with g5. That's not threatening anything. Remember, if he ever takes, we're going to take with the f pawn. This is the formation you need to know. All right. Knight h5. Subtle threat. He captured, you normally will capture E takes D4 unless there's a tactical reason to do otherwise. He's threatening to go back knight G7, so white created a very cheeky, which is a British word, threat of, if you play knight G7, I'm going to checkmate you on H6 and smother mate you. So really a clever move to play knight G4. I like that. And black said, well, okay, I see that I had a problem. I can't do that. Go back. Queen H3, again, threatening nastiness along the H file. The attack is playing itself. Now, the other advantage of knight checks here is that when you recapture, you're threatening to take this. There's also queen takes E6 check. So there's a hidden X-ray attack on E6. All right? Again, white's following the system. He's gotten, when the knight is available to go to F3 and, you know, hit E5, either as a potential target, reinforcement, what have you, you need to play that move as a general rule. Black makes a mistake. It happens. Okay, it's a blitz game. H5, en passant. We want, these pieces are just devastating. You're like, oh man, what do I have to pay you to get this position? Nothing, it's free if you know what you're doing. At least it was for this game. Every white piece is doing something valuable, and black cannot make the same claim. Not legitimately. Slicing bishops. The bishop belongs on this light square diagonal. Attacking the weak square G6. This is a clearance move. Clearance for the queen. All right. So when you know these things, it's like, oh, dude, this is so obvious. Okay. Now we force what I would call a concrete weakness. It's now Swiss cheese on the dark squares. All right, with the holes everywhere. G, he attacks the knight that can go to the Swiss cheese square. I think we'll play knight to the Swiss cheese square of E5. That's where it needs to go. Now, once again, the computer has some great ideas. White is playing with lower time, and all the moves are strong moves played quickly. That is the lesson here. Playing strong moves quickly is better than playing the best move slowly. That's one of the lessons of speed chess. Again, the computer said rook takes is the Swiss cheese destroying kind of move, but white is playing strong moves quickly. That knight F3 is a nasty move. So, really good stuff. But rook G2 also very strong. Just strong differently. Now, there's, clearance again from the bishop. And that C3 attack is too slow. Again, white will normally use the queen on the light squares as a general rule. That's the point of the Colle system. Too slow. Normally, you don't put the king in an X-ray attack with the sniper, but there's no way to remove this bishop. So this D5 pawn is locked. All right, doubling time to crush, get out of dodge, removal of liability with a check, and it's game over. There's nothing he could do. This destruction sacrifice, bishop takes F5, is so easy to see because, again, now the bishop is dominating the dark square Swiss cheese and the queen is dominating the white square Swiss cheese. It's bad. Super easy move to play. Queen takes free rook. And he's annihilated. Especially when bishop to F8 removes the bishop out of the way, giving a check and guarding the pawn at the same time. That's just sick. Again, the computer doesn't like this move. It doesn't matter to me. If I'm coaching, I'm saying, dude, this white is kicking butt. He's playing good, really good moves very fast. This is how you win speed games. And this is it, because this is the boom, boom, two queens checkmate. All right? And you'll notice White was losing on time, but because of strong move, strong move, strong move, strong move, strong move, the pressure is just too much. The black's position was inferior, and white kept the pressure on to black, and that's what happened. It wasn't that black was a horrible player. He made really one mistake, blundering the knight, but after that, he put up tremendous resistance, and you got to give that guy credit. But white's credit is that played the Colle system and played it well. So I'll have more games from this for you in the future for my friends. And let me know if you like this and if you want to see more stuff like this. So I want to thank you guys for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember, my dad's rules win. This game is an exact example of why they win. So look forward to seeing you guys later. And as always, like and subscribe.